So how did Med for More begin? What was the story behind it? How did it click? How did you started it and everything?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, my husband was working with COVID patients in the first wave. And in the second wave also, when the second wave hit, it was pretty bad and pretty devastating. And my husband Marcus doesn't actually practice clinically, but he was helping a lot of people through even the second wave because they didn't have access to their doctors. Their doctors were so busy. They were so flooded with calls that people weren't able to access their regular doctors. So one day he got a call from one of our staff members who works with us, and his son had developed COVID and they didn't have access, like I said, to a doctor. They didn't know what to do. So he came with the reports to my husband and, showed it to him. And before he came, we were just discussing, he and I were just sitting, having just a regular chat. And we were like, some of these medicines are really expensive. And it's so sad that they have to spend so much to get these medicines, and the affordability is an issue. And that's when we decided, it struck us that, there are 3 or 4 patients who've recovered from COVID in the building. Why don't we ask them to donate their medicines and help him out with those medicines? So that's it. That was a simple idea. That happened. People very willingly donated their leftover medicines. We were able to help this one gentleman through just those medicines that we collected. And that's when the ball dropped. And we realized that if we can help one person, imagine if we collected these medicines from all the buildings in our area, we could probably help 20 or 30 or 50 people. And that's how the idea started. We honestly did not expect it to grow and become as big as it did, but it just kind of snowballed from there. It almost went viral. We started getting inquiries from people saying, we want to be a part of this initiative. We want to make a difference. We want to do something to help. So that's how Meds for More started, and it's just been growing from there, and we can only be.
Hello, Dr. Raina. Thank you for being with us in the 3rd episode of BioTales podcast. Before we begin, why don't you start by introducing yourself?
Okay, so my name is Dr. Raina Rane, and I'm a physiotherapist. I'm based out of Bombay, and I run a clinic called Genesis Physiotherapy Clinic, where we mainly deal with orthopedic and sports injuries. Recently, I also got certified as a pregnancy consultant, which means that I help pregnant women to lead a healthier, happier pregnancy with all kinds of pregnancy-based advice, as well as, of course, prenatal exercises and, just how to cope with labor. That's a very important part of a childbirth educator, which is what I've certified as. So, but then lockdown happened. So I really haven't been able to get out there and help as many women as I would have liked to, but well, hey. So, and of course, the last thing that I would like to add is the most recent COVID initiative, which I started along with my husband and a group of very close friends and a very, very strong support team called Meds for More, where the main idea of this initiative was to collect unused, unexpired COVID medicines and distribute them to people who had neither access nor affordability for these medicines. So that's something that I'm very proud of, and I'm very proud of what the entire team has achieved with this particular initiative.
That is great. The initiative sounds so great, and I'm sure a lot of people who would be tuning in would love to be a part of this initiative and volunteer with you. So as we move forward, I have a very open-ended question for you. How has life been working the pandemic, starting your own initiative? How has everything been?
So life in the pandemic, I guess, as for everyone else, has been a mixed bag of emotions. There has been chaos, there has been stress, especially during the first wave and when COVID hit and we didn't know what was going on. There was anxiety, there was frustration. I mean, all those kind of emotions, which I'm sure everyone experienced. So that was definitely there. We had a bit of a stressful time because my husband, Marcus, was volunteering as a frontline worker for COVID patients. He used to go to the slums and take part in these screening camps. And then he developed COVID. And so that was again a very stressful period, because with kids in the house, with him having COVID, it was quite early on. So we didn't exactly know which way things were going, what to expect. Early on, people were also very unsure about the whole thing. So that was a tough time, a stressful period in our lives. But we got out of it, and it's just helped us appreciate, how real the whole thing was very early on. And I think that also spurred the whole idea to make a difference and to help people who didn't have the kind of access to healthcare and to medicines and to doctors as we did.
That's fair enough. I personally think like when you yourself are stuck with a personal problem, that is when you realize different things that are happening and start an initiative like you guys did.
Right.
So as we're moving forward, I love to start with a rapid fire, just a sort of an icebreaker kind of thing. The first question for you is 3 words that you will use to define yourself.
Outdoorsy, adventurous, and procrastinator.
You don't seem like that at all with the initiative, working in the clinic, getting your own certificates now. What made you decide to be a physiotherapist?
So to be very honest with you, when we graduated from our school back in the days, which was actually quite a few years ago, there were only 2 options. You either take science or you take engineering if you wanted to go down the science route. So all of us just took science. The added advantage that I had was my mom was a physiotherapist, and I used to see not so much the work that she did, but I used to see the life that she had, which was beautifully balanced between family as well as giving time to her profession. And that's something that I kind of liked. And I kept hearing, medicine mein jaoge to bahut difficult hai, like there will be no life. So I think that was one of the initial things which excited me about physiotherapy. I'm going to get to have a nice work-life balance. But as I went along, of course, there were ups and downs, but the interest in the field grew. And from there on, I went on to specialize in something that I really, really enjoyed. And that's how it became, something that I do and something that I'm passionate about.
That's great. So you said that you are doing e-consults right now and, working in an e-clinic. How has that been? Do you have any fun stories to share, people joining late or forgetting they are muted or they are unmuted and stuff like that?
Not so many funny incidents. I think the main thing is me only. I'm not tech savvy. So I've started to learn how to use Zoom and, all the new things more so in the pandemic. Otherwise, when we were treating patients offline, there wasn't really so much tech really involved in my day-to-day life. My son has helped me to learn how to navigate the ins and outs of, through online schooling of Zoom. So I have to be very prepared before I do any kind of a talk, make sure that everything is in place, all set up. I think the joke's on me, the tech unsavviness that I bring to the table. But other than that, no, patients have been really sweet. Early in the pandemic, I helped a lot of people just because people were struggling and going through so much. Helped a few people even recover from COVID online, which has been really helpful when people weren't able to, see their doctors. They were scared to go out there and meet people. So that's something I've been done. But since then now, since things are a little better, resumed clinic and seeing patients now, more and more in the clinic as well.
That's nice. All of these things seems great, and none of these scream procrastinator to me anyway. So do you think that shifting to an online platform for clinics and everything, for schools, obviously they have impacted the education system in a way. What do you think about the healthcare factor? Like, has the patient and doctor interaction been different in a lot of ways? What are the impacts of shifting to e-clinics?
So I think the e-clinic has its pros and cons. The pros are obviously that you're able to connect to a much larger audience. Like I can sit here, like I have a patient in Bangalore and I can sit in my bedroom and she can sit in her bedroom and we can do a session together, which we would have never done in an ordinary situation, or people wouldn't even have thought it possible. But the pandemic has changed everyone's view and people are ready to change their biases a little bit about these kind of things. So that's been the huge pro as far as, so just reaching out to more people, being able to help people where they weren't able to come in or just where distance was a factor. That's definitely something that's been hugely beneficial. The cons, of course, are the fact that, when you have a screen between you and the patient, your ability to connect with the person reduces down. It's not as, it doesn't have the same feel to it. Plus, of course, in my field, and I can only talk about what I go through, we can be quite hands-on. We do a fair bit of evaluations where we're, looking at the patient move, trying to understand different movement impairments they may have. We may want to even work on the patient manually. So those things were not possible online. So I think that is something that I missed. But the other thing that I think has been brought to light by the whole e-platform is that some of it, not all of it, but some of it is our own mental blocks, that nahi, ye nahi ho sakta hai, I can't treat a patient online. And when you're forced into it, you find solutions, you find a way to innovate and make it work for you. It may not be 100% effective, but at least 60 to 70% you can get the job done. So that's been a huge eye-opener.
So yeah, something is better than nothing, even if you're giving small part back.
Yeah.
So how did Med4More begin? What was the story behind it? How did it click? How did you started it and everything?
Yeah. So like I mentioned, my husband was working with COVID patients in the first wave. And in the second wave also, when the second wave hit, it was pretty bad and pretty devastating. And my husband Marcus doesn't actually practice clinically, but he was helping a lot of people through even the second wave because they didn't have access to their doctors. Their doctors were so busy. They were so flooded with calls that people weren't able to access their regular doctors. So one day he got a call from one of our staff members who works with us, and his son had developed COVID and they didn't have access, like I said, to a doctor. They didn't know what to do. So he came with the reports to my husband and, showed it to him. And before he came, we were just discussing, he and I were just sitting, having just a regular chat. And we were like, some of these medicines are really expensive. And it's so sad that they have to spend so much to get these medicines, and the affordability is an issue. And that's when we decided, it struck us that, there are 3 or 4 patients who've recovered from COVID in the building. Why don't we ask them to donate their medicines and help him out with those medicines? So that's it. That was a simple idea. That happened. People very willingly donated their leftover medicines. We were able to help this one gentleman through just those medicines that we collected. And that's when the ball dropped and we realized that if we can help one person, imagine if we collected these medicines from all the buildings in our area, we could probably help 20 or 30 or 50 people. And that's how the idea started. We honestly did not expect it to grow and become as big as it did, but it just kind of snowballed from there. It almost went viral. We started getting inquiries from people saying, we want to be a part of this initiative. We want to make a difference. We want to do something to help. So that's how Med4More started, and it's just been growing from there. And we can only be grateful for everyone who supported it and made it what it is.
It's such a simple yet such a big impactful idea. For people who are living in the secluded areas and don't have access to it, even they can get medicines because of this. So how do you manage your time having such a big initiative? Like you said, it almost went viral. And, how do you manage your time being a physiotherapist, having your clinic, having kids in your house, and having Med4More?
Yeah. time is obviously challenging, but I have to say with Meds for More, though the initial idea was, was ours, we had a very, very strong team, a very, good, solid support system, a lot of volunteers in our immediate friends and family who really like stepped up and, were like willing to help in whatever way they could. So that was a big, big initial boost to the whole idea, because we wouldn't have been able to do it with the support of that core team that we had built up very early on. And of course, without the support of the thousands and thousands of volunteers who actually collected the medicines and donated it. So yeah, Meds for More started on the 1st of May, and May itself was a crazy month, I can tell you that. We did not know what was happening in our house, and the kids were just being looked after. We were like running from work to doing, work for Meds for More, identifying NGOs, trying to get everything as settled as possible. But from June onwards, we got the hang of it. I can say we got a little better. We streamlined things a lot more. So it was a little bit more automated. We all knew what our roles and responsibilities were. So things started getting a lot smoother, and I think we started getting our lives back a little bit. So that's how we manage. And can't thank our support system for the kids enough, which is grandparents who've been a huge help in all of this. So when we aren't around, or when we have some commitments, either with work or with Meds for More, or with, anything external, they've always been there, like this really, really solid support system to look after the children. So
that's very nice. Yeah, having a support system in such kind of things is the biggest help that you can get. Like you said, it blew up. The Meds for More idea, it went viral. I recently saw your talk with Amitabh Bachchan and on different news channels. So how was that experience like? Did you ever think that Meds for More will reach a platform that big?
Never. Like I told you, it was actually just, it was such a small idea. And the main, when we started thinking about it, we never thought that big. We just thought we'll do it for our area and a few neighborhoods around us. Never did we imagine the impact that it would have, not only on people in terms of wanting to help and wanting to be a part of the initiative, but also the impact on the people who these medicines, went to, and the impact it had on their lives in turn. So it was such a surprise, and it was so heartwarming to see the support that we got from every single person. And we just have so much gratitude that we've been able to help so many people through this. And we get such, amazing messages from people thanking us for starting something like that. Recently, very proud moment, we got a small note from the Indian Army thanking us, because we sent some medicines to them, and they had distributed those medicines at the Jammu Kashmir border to a few villages that they had adopted. And it's things like that that keep you going, and which make you realize that what you're doing, how much impact it's having out there. So it was wonderful to see the kind of coverage it got. It was wonderful to see people actually sitting up, taking notice, and more importantly, wanting to support it wholeheartedly without any kind of agenda in it. They just wanted to help. So couldn't ask for more.
I feel that is the biggest definition of success. Getting those small things, getting those small notes would mean so much. I can't even imagine how nice it would have felt at that moment. What do you think, in COVID, we saw a lot of the ugly truth, the bitter truth of the healthcare system in India, how people were suffering so much, lack of oxygen, lack of beds, lack of medicines. So what do you think that says about the Indian healthcare system, and how do you think we can improve it for the future students who want to enter into medicine or healthcare? What do you think your advice would be for them, or tips for them? What changes should they make?
I think that, of course, it has highlighted. I think we always knew that the healthcare system wasn't the greatest because there is so much, what would you say? There's so much discrepancy between healthcare, right? Like if you have access to a good hospital, a good doctor, you see a very different side of healthcare. Whereas someone who doesn't have access or affordability or has to go, someone in a rural area, for example, those primary health centers, they're not even equipped with the right kind of medical doctors. A lot of the doctors don't have the right degrees and are prescribing medicines without having complete education. So there's a huge mismatch between cities, rural areas, even within the cities for a certain class of people, they don't have the access. So it's very disheartening to see. So of course, at a larger scale level, it has to be addressed. And hopefully the pandemic has actually made people sit up and take notice. And that's going to be something that's strengthened over the years to come at a more central level. That's definitely the need of the day. As far as young doctors and physios and healthcare professionals are concerned, I think they are actually doing a great job because in the pandemic, they are the ones who've been the heroes. They've gone out there, they've done the job very selflessly, spent hours and hours and hours with patients when there has been no other respite for the patient. So I think the doctors have really stepped out of their way and done a lot. So I would say keep doing that, keep having the faith in your profession. And that's what we are in it for. So don't ever forget that. And I would like to urge more younger people to consider this because I see a lot of people stepping away from medical sciences. I'm not sure if that's entirely true, but that's just my sense of it, that there are a lot more opportunities. So people aren't as attracted to medicine and, healthcare in general because it's lots of studying and probably not the most rewarding in terms of monetary compensation. So, but there are lots of other things that you will get out of it. So do try and not only think about one side, but look at the whole picture.
The bigger picture, like you would be, in the end of the day, you would be helping people. And I think that is what matters the most. You said you are a procrastinator. I still can't believe that, but when you're procrastinating, what motivates you to get up and start working again? Like there are some days when all of us have burnout, when all of us are in bed thinking that let's just give up, I don't want to do this anymore. So what motivates you at the end of the day?
I think just like I said, when you realize the impact that you're having on a person. So like for something from like Meds for More, when we understood the kind of impact we were having, that was a huge motivator, to do more, to continue, and to realize that this is something that's really making a difference. And I think with my patients also, my patients motivate me because I can see when you make a difference in their life, how grateful they are. Just to be able to be pain-free or to move better or to go back to a sport that they like. So people and the ability to make a difference in their life is, I think, what motivates me the most. And so I'm really glad I'm in the profession I am because I get to see that on a day-to-day basis. And that is a daily motivator to do more. And people like you, to be honest, young people who are out there, who are doing such great things, when you see about them, read about them, then that itself just, injects a little bit of motivation into your life. So I think there are lots of different motivators for me. They come sometimes in small doses, they come sometimes in unexpected ways, but on a day-to-day basis is just the ability to make a difference.
That's great. So this is something that I've seen personally. One of my masis, she's a physiotherapist. So a lot of physiotherapists, dentists, other healthcare workers like nurses, they don't get enough respect as much as doctors. Like, you would have seen it yourself. A lot of hate comments like you are not a doctor, you didn't go to med school and stuff like that. How do you deal with those stuff?
I mean, I don't let that bother me because we are not there for the title or for the, for the, like, to put it simply, for the title of it. And we know the kind of impact our work has because we see it every day with the patients that we treat. So I think once you realize that, look, I'm making a difference, and it's not like we are magicians, we have our limitations. I mean, of course. So I think just understanding the ability that you have to make a difference and seeing that is enough. Then you don't have to worry about what the outside world thinks, or, you're not a doctor. I mean, you just have to get comfortable with who you are, with what you're doing, and just go out there and do it. And I think that's the most important thing.
Fair enough. I think self-realization over those hate comments that you are above it is what matters the most. A lot of people my age who are in high school or who are in college have ideas that can make a change, but they don't make an effort to do it. What is one tip that you will give to them? Like, something motivated you to start med more. In the back of your mind, you would have those thoughts that would this work? Would this be a failure or not? So how did you overcome those thoughts, the negative thoughts that you had before starting it?
So there is a quote that goes, the greatest ideas are often the simplest. And I think that Meds for More has just completely highlighted that for all of us, that all it takes is a simple idea and just a little bit of energy injected into that idea to make it from something small to something big. And what I would like to tell people is that you never know how a simple idea can impact the person that is next to you. It may impact one person, it may impact 10 people, or it may impact thousands of people. But that's not, you don't start doing what you do because of how many people you can help. Even if you can help one person through what you do, I think that's your job done. That's big enough. And then, of course, if you go on to help or, make a difference to more and more people, then that's just a bonus. So, just keep that simple thing in mind, and you never know where, the world's your oyster. So never shy away. And I think Meds for More has taught me this, from doing something to help or doing something to impact another person's life, because you really don't know where it can lead.
That's great. So thinking back about everything that you have done till now, if there was one thing that you can do, one thing that you can change, what would that be?
Oh, okay. That will take... can I give a boring answer and say nothing? Or do I have to say something for sure?
Nothing is fine as well. It just shows that you are happy with your life and you are very grateful.
Look, I think all of us have things that we would love to change about our past. And I'm no different. I mean, I can't think of one instance off the top of my head, but yes, there are lots of things we wish we'd done differently or we wish we were. But over time, you just come to realize that it's all those things that you did wrong and all the experiences where things didn't go the way to plan, which makes you the person that you are today. So I think the learning from all of this has been just take all of it and, help that to make you a stronger, better person. And I don't think I'll wish anything away. I mean, there are lots of silly, stupid, embarrassing things I've probably done in my life, which I would probably want to wish away. But it's making me the person I am today, and it'll continue to do so. So I'll stick to that.
That's nice. Before we end, is there a few words of wisdom or advices that you would like to give to the students or to the people who will be watching the podcast?
Like I said, the simplest thing and the one thing that I want to tell people is don't shy away from doing small acts of kindness, because you really don't know whose life it will impact and what kind of change it can make out there in the world. And even if what you do just helps one person or, just your neighbors, then that's a great start. Every idea doesn't have to become this big thing where you are helping thousands of people, otherwise it's not worth it. No. So and that's a philosophy I like to live by, that even if you're changing one person's life by something that you say or something that you do, that's good enough. So I'd like to tell all the younger people that everything, you don't have to like aim for the skies, but everything doesn't have to impact the whole world, or it's not worth doing. So keep that in mind and do those small things. That person will really thank you for it.
That's great advice to follow. Thank you so much for talking with us, joining with us, giving your words of wisdom. It was great having you with us. Again, thanks a lot for taking the time.
Thank you.